Reality TV is something I generally stay away from, and it's probably the reason why I haven't yet covered a reality show on Games of Canada up until now. Just, I find a lot of the shows just follow the same formula. It's the same over dramatized bullshit. And for instance, I think that Survivor and Big Brother are two of the worst shows on TV right now. But there are exceptions to it. There are a couple of reality shows I can watch every now and then. One exception to that was Dragon's Den. That was a show that once upon a time I religiously followed. And I haven't watched it as much in the last few years, mainly ever since the departures of Kevin O'Leary and Robert Herjavec. But it's still something I can tune into every once in a while. And season three, was really when I started watching, and that was when the show kind of went through an interesting shift. One dragon who'd been with the show since the beginning, La Senza founder Lawrence Lewin, was forced to leave the show due to an illness that later claimed his life. And he was replaced by Brett Wilson, who I want to go on the record as saying I have nothing but respect for. He's a great philanthropist, very charitable-minded man, and he's always shown to be a very nice guy, a great personality. And when he came on Dragon's Den, it was a little different because he was kind of a nicer guy and was giving out a lot of his money. In a lot of cases, it was to entrepreneurs who didn't really deserve it. And that caused some conflicts between him and the producers of the show. I guess they felt he was hurting the credibility of the show by just throwing his money around willy-nilly. And they wanted him to be a little more cynical of entrepreneurs and tighten the purse strings a bit. But Brett disagreed and thought that the show should be more about helping entrepreneurs, celebrating them, and offering constructive criticism. Either way, Brett managed to broker more deals during his 3-year run than any other dragon in the history of the show in such a short time. But after 3 years, both sides just couldn't come to an agreement, and by all accounts, it was an ugly divorce of sorts. So Brett expressed interest about creating his own business-based reality show. And although he never got to pursue creating his own show, he did host one show and was a huge part of it. He was pretty much the face of the franchise. And sadly, it ended up being a massive bomb that only made him look bad because of the actions of others. So ladies and gentlemen, I give you Risky Business.
Risky Business was a short-lived reality show that primarily aired on the Slice cable network in Canada and was also syndicated throughout several stations, including the global networks. The host of the show was Brett Wilson. Brett was still a hot name coming off of Dragon's Den, and it's clear that's why he was hired to do the show. Brett had shown on Dragon's Den he actually has a very great personality. But here he doesn't get to showcase it. And that's not through any fault of his own. It's that the format of the show and the whole way everything is set up, there's no room for him to really show who he is. So it was really a mistake for him to sign on to the show. The concept of the game is based off of a British show called Beat the Bank, which was a one-off airing. Basically, the idea is a couple comes on the show willing to invest a large amount of their own money into one of two business opportunities. And when I say business opportunities, it's a stretch. A lot of the entrepreneurs that they lined up on the show were really lacking. We saw things like a man who buys and sells vintage wines, or pool hustlers, or someone with raising a racehorse. The whole idea is they're supposed to be risky businesses, and the investors strike a deal with the entrepreneur of their choice to earn a share of the profits over the next 30 days. Whichever one they turn down, Brett invests in so that we can see how they stack up against each other. After this, we get the usual reality show over-dramatized run of the hardships and the downfalls of running a business and the uphill swings. And once this is all done, everybody reunites and we see the results after 3 days to see who won more or lost less. And that's pretty much the whole show. So, honestly, this is going to be a very quick video because there's not really a whole lot to talk about. But then we get into what happened after the show went off the air. According to an article published in The Star on February 10, 2012, written by Ellen Roseman, several couples who appeared on the show later filed complaints about never getting paid. The first one the article references is Frank Urbaniak and his wife Dee Lakatos. The couple invested $15,000 into a traveling rodeo owned and operated by Joe Scully. In the end, the investment didn't pay off, and the couple ended up losing $5,000 of their investment. They're willing to accept that loss, as that was part of the risk. But it turns out, in the end, Scully never paid them a dime, and the couple filed a lawsuit. After several months of being told just to be patient and being given the runaround not only by Scully, but by the producers of the show, and even Brett himself. But after threatening to go public with the story, the network and production company suddenly agreed to help Urbaniak and Lakatos with the lawsuit, even offering to advance them the money if the case didn't pay out in an appropriate amount of time. The second case involved Joe Dockstader and his wife, who appeared on the very first episode, and invested $5,000 into a vintage clothing store owned and operated by Elizabeth Mason. The investment turned a modest $900 profit, but according to the article, it took several months of legal pressure before Mason paid them out. And making matters worse, on the show she had promised to give them 50% of the sales on the remaining 10 dresses she had purchased over the 30 days, which Brett himself estimated would generate a few $1,000s in income. However, according to them, Mason never even updated them on the status of those sales. And it wasn't until Roseman offered to go public with the story that Dockstader and his wife contacted her to advise her that the matter had been settled with the network and producers intervening. So these are some shady tactics to use by the network and the producers. They really should have done better background checking on the entrepreneurs. And really, I feel bad for Brett in all this. He didn't produce the show. He was just the host. But because when you're the host, you're the face of the show. So when the show screws up, it makes you look bad.
So poor Brett Wilson getting roped into this. It couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. And it's a shame that he took a lot of the blame for the actions of others here. But the one good news about it, though, is that Brett has learned that television is not as easy as it seems. And to the best of my knowledge, he has not pursued anything in television since. But he still stays very active with all his business interests and in various charities, and has never lost any of that reputation of being a nice guy. So really, this was just a bump in the road for him. He licked his wounds, he moved on, and he's still doing fine. Next time out in the Game Show Canada, we're going to be looking back at a quirky quizzer from CBC that many compare to an American classic called You Bet Your Life. And that show is called Double Up. Hope to see you then. Until then, this is Marc Power saying on behalf of all of us at Game Show Gunk, long may your big chip drop.
Become a Patreon backer at www.patreon.com/GameShowGumbo or check out our website www.gameshowgumbo.com. This has been an Impressive production.